Dr. Jazz.
I actually don't know where to start because
Because
you
it's
know
too early.
you you've been so busy. I mean, I don't know. I just checked like the last 2 years, and it's just like so many incredible records and tours and projects, and and everything is, yeah. Sorry, you wanted to say something? Yeah.
Oh, no, I just said I've been really fortunate the last few years, considering the pandemic and everything. Before the pandemic hit, I had an even busier year booked, like all sorts of tours, and then, everybody's stuff got canceled. And
Yeah,
then
sure.
slowly it just, when people called me in the middle of the pandemic to play, I just went and played because I couldn't not do it. I know a lot of friends didn't do any gigs because everyone was scared. And I just, this is even before the vaccine. I don't know how wise it was.
Yeah.
Like playing at Smalls, in the middle of the pandemic when none of us are vaccinated. It probably wasn't wise, but I don't know. I just kept working, and I actually haven't had COVID.
Oh,
yet.
wow. Good. Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but I just want to start first with How to Turn the Moon. I know it's a little bit older. I mean, it's still kind of new, but like, Marilyn is probably one of the best pianists out there for the last, 40 years or longer. And, how did you, how did you hook up with her? I mean, like, the story with her.
Well, I know Marilyn since, probably I was like, I first heard her on a record with Fred Anderson and Hamid Drake. I think when I was like 17 or 18, I might be a little older. And then I met her at Carl Berger's creative music camp.
Mm-hmm.
I was up there one summer, just kind of hanging out, like helping out students. And I wasn't an official teacher, but he was always gracious and give you a room and, hang out, eat. So every night there's a jam session. I think they do it in Brooklyn now. I think it's a little different now. It's not, I don't think it's upstate.
Yeah.
And her and Carl are very close. So she was at the jam session, and I just I went right up to her and I was like, Marilyn, I'm Angelica. She goes, oh, I've heard so much about you. I'm so glad to meet you. And we just, I don't know how many years ago that was now. Maybe, I can't recall. Maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, already. Okay.
I didn't meet her till later in my life, till I was already here doing stuff. And then we just became really good friends. And we spent a year not even playing, just like visiting each other, sharing ideas.
Really?
And she paints, and she's very talented in many aspects in art, and she would share her ideas with me, and I would share my ideas with her. And then one day I was like, hey, I have this music. How do you feel about doing a duo project? And she was like, let's do it. So I wrote, I was like, okay. I wrote these short pieces with the idea that, we don't need a lot of material to expand, especially Marilyn. She's a master at development and improvising. And we just had a blast, and it was all love, and none of it was stressful. We did it up in Woodstock at a studio up there, and I rented a piano to piano. A good friend of mine, Michael Kelly, who lives up in Woodstock. There's a whole Woodstock crew that I'm close to.
Yeah.
He videoed it, and he's fantastic. So it was just, the whole thing was just lovely, and we did a handful of concerts.
Oh, you did? Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I might try to do some other concerts in the next year or two here. Well, because Marilyn's been very busy with Lovano and
the trio.
Formanek, the trio, So.
Yeah, you should come to Europe if possible. Like a duo tour would be beautiful.
I would like to. I think I'm going to propose it to some of the smaller festivals that are into the hassle of getting two pianos.
That's the only thing. Yeah. Otherwise, I think promoters would love this one.
Yeah.
It's a nice project.
Yeah, and she's just like one of the most generous, lovely, giving person you'll ever meet. She's like that musically speaking too.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always that, like, when you have two pianos, it's a whole lot of piano. So if you're not playing with someone that's comfortable with space and generous, then it's not so fun. But it's a blast to play with her.
Did you talk about the music? What to do or not?
No,
not even.
Not really.
No.
But I wrote these short pieces. We rehearsed the pieces. Sometimes we talk about maybe forms of the pieces to have some variety, or
yeah.
But that was the most we talked about, and she, we definitely have a telepathic connection.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
So you don't have to talk a whole lot. I don't like talking a whole lot anyway, so it works out.
But how did you write? I mean, you have a new one out. I saw some footage with Rainey and Malaby, with Tony and Tom on Rogart, and there's some footage on YouTube. You guys had a tour now in France, and it's just killing. It's just, man, talk about the trio, like some of my favorite musicians out there. And but you compose the music also for that trio and for Marilyn, and you do a lot of writing, or have done also. And what's your story there? How do you, let's say with Marilyn, you just wrote some sketches, like how do you do it? Where do you get the ideas from?
I don't know. I have a lot of ideas, and it's just sort of finding the time to write them down. I'm always writing for the person, not the composition. So I haven't had an instant where I'm looking at a blank page and I don't know what to do. I know it happens, people, and I just, maybe because I'm just running around too much, I don't have time to think about writer's block or whatever. So I'm always thinking about the person.
That helps.
And I know Marilyn's playing, and I know her sound, and I know her. So I sit and write. I wrote things that I thought would be fun to explore and expand.
Yeah.
With her, I see composition as more, not so much a self-expression, but as a way of self-expansion.
Yeah.
Self-expansion.
Yeah.
Right? It's about the people, not so much the composition. I think it's second, So yeah, but I did go so far as to tell myself, I don't want to write a 10-page piece for this duet, this duo. So I wrote, I think the longest piece, maybe 2 pages, really. So
okay,
that's not so much music. Well, we take it and make it 17 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Yeah, like but when you improvise, or like when I saw with Tony and Tom, you sometimes get into this incredible zone of free improvising. I mean, all of you. And,
that group doesn't play compositions. We're all improvising the whole time.
I thought it's compositions because it sounds composed sometimes. Yeah,
that's just a long time knowing each other.
Really? Ah, shit. I thought it's like compositions. Like, wow. Yeah. Okay, incredible. But okay, that's even then a further question. How do how do you get in the zone? Like, to know which is the right decision in that moment? Like Tom told me like once, and I asked him like, he can just play the snare drum for 2 minutes and it's gonna sound awesome, and he just does that with so much conviction, and it's the right decision he makes. Like, but you as a piano player, how do you decide where to go, like in improvising?
Well, the music's already there, all around you. You have to get out of the way of it, right? So it's not unlike meditation or
yeah.
I studied Tai Chi for many, many years. Right. And when during that practice, I realized that I wasn't good at concentration, because the first time you start Tai Chi, they make you do horse stance for like an hour. And I was just in so much agony. I was like, oh, this is terrible. But then I really learned what focus was in doing that, in doing that practice. And it really brought me back to my, once you learn how to focus like that, then that's your whole life. It's not just a physical exercise, that you live your whole life in that zone. People call the zone.
Yeah.
I think that's why, day-to-day life can be difficult for musicians, because you're just there, you're in there all the time. It's like, oh, I have to wash the dishes now. What?
Exactly.
And also the three of us have been doing that for, I don't know, over 20 years. We've been creating these, spontaneous compositions for a long time. So you really get to know each other, like in the most intimate way. I think you can know another human.
Yeah.
Is what we do together. It sounds a little crazy, but that's the real true intimacy. That's you're in each other's psyche, and that's okay. So, but yeah, the music's there, so you just have to get out of the way of it. I don't even think of the piano as a piano. I try not to approach it as I try not to think, oh, I'm a pianist, It's just an instrument that's helping me get to the music that's already there. So people go, how did you come up with it? I don't know. Do I practice things that are pianistic all the time? But I don't know how useful they are sometimes.
Yeah.
Other than just enjoyment.
But do you try to capture the zone? I mean, of course, you always go.
I don't try to do anything.
No, right? Yeah.
I don't do anything.
Yeah.
I just sit there and
listen.
Yeah, it's a focused kind of listening. It's like a meditation. And all of a sudden, like, you disappear, the world disappears, and it's just that. And it's a real joy, really. So. Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I had to learn that so much also. Like, I remember a tour we did with Tony years ago, and we did we did a tour with Tony and Roberto, this drummer, and we played like a really cool first gig, and then we went into some zones. And then the second gig, I was like, yeah, I'll go there. And just Tony didn't play. I was like, oh. Then I asked him, we talked, and exactly what, you said. He was like, well, it's a different venue, different energy, different whatever, and yeah, and you're younger, and, I didn't, we're learning all the time, but like, I was like, oh shit, yeah, true, exactly. I should not.
I mean, I didn't know that when I was 19. The first time I started playing music like this without any net, so to say, it felt like I was surfing this tidal wave and just barely holding on. I knew something was happening, but I didn't know what. And my small mind at the time was getting in the way of things, because I was thinking, like, why are you thinking? So, but that process to turn that thinking off, it's a lifelong process, of course.
Yeah. When was the first time?
I don't think about it.
When you improvised like that, what was the context? I mean, that happened, that you decided to do like this free impro and investigating it?
I think I must have been like 18 or 19, and I mean, I was really into Monk and Paul Play and Jared, and I didn't come to players like Cecil Taylor till I was a little older, till my ears had matured a little bit, but I must have been like 19, and Tony and I lived in Arizona at the time, and we started exploring like that. We would play tunes too. We would play like all these different tunes. It was funny. People would, I think they would find that funny to hear us play those tunes. Yeah. But and then when we got to New York, I knew what I wanted to do, and I was just looking for people to do it with. One of the first persons I would practice like that regularly was with this alto saxophone player named Marc, who's alive still. But I think he's always done like some type of computer programming. I don't think he plays too much anymore. but he was active in the 70s in New York, and I used to work at Tower Records, and he would always come into Tower Records. And one day he came up to me and says, I see you at all these concerts, because I was going to every concert, you know,
Sure.
back in 1995 that I could go to. Back in 1995 in New York, there were a lot of concerts.
Yeah.
So really great, not like now. And he goes, do you play something? I said, yeah, I play piano. He goes, you want to get together? Yeah, so he would come over to my house. I had like a little spinet, and we would just improvise, you know.
Mm.
And then that same year, Tony and I, we decided to play without a bass player because of how dangerous that felt at the time. At least to me, it felt dangerous. I didn't know that Tony felt like that, because I was used to playing with a bass player. And so we ended up playing with Tom. There was a few drummers, but we ended up asking Tom to do it, and he had played with me in a few other places, other groups, and it was just a blast. And we just started developing,
The language,
the three people. Not so much the three instruments, but the three people. You know, and, just, you know, fearless in terms of, you have to not care what things sound like if you're going to follow the music. And that, I think that takes courage, because everyone's concerned with themselves. Yeah. So that's one of the things that's really freeing about it, is like, I disappear myself. I'm not, you know, you're just there for the music and enjoying the ride, you know. So I always tell people when they come to concerts, I'm like, you know, thank you for going on this journey with us. We don't know where we're going. For me, that's exciting. So it's still exciting. Like we're playing next week in New York, and I'm very excited to do it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, the three of us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, because you know their language, but they can still always surprise you, you know, because there's so much creativity going on there. So.
Oh, I do know their language.
Yeah, sure. I know, yeah. Definitely.
I know it well.
But you mentioned Jarrett and Monk. Were like these the people that kind of got you excited for jazz piano also, like let's say late 80s or something like that? Or what was the trigger?
It was probably Herbie Hancock. I was like 13 when I got Miles Smiles. My father gave it to me, actually, because he's like, this record's too wild. Here, you might like it. My father was a big music lover, and his record collection kind of started me out. And he had Ahmad Jamal, he'd have Modern Jazz Quartet, and I'm a big John Lewis fan also. Because of that, and he had like it's called Gets a Go-Go. He had a lot of the Brazilian, you know, records, and he had a lot of Dave Brubeck. He had a lot of George Shearing.
All the greats.
Yeah, so I heard George Shearing, a recent recording of She, and it's just gorgeous. But not recent, old recording, not recent. He's long gone. So he gave me this Miles Davis record, and Herbie Hancock freaked me out so much as a kid. I couldn't understand what was happening. And it was like the lifelong, I had to get every Herbie Hancock record under the sun. So I went kind of backwards. And then I found Monk through that, because, you know, you follow the line. And then it was kind of like Monk and Herbie Hancock for several years as a kid, just trying to figure out what they were doing, you know. And I grew up isolated. There was no jazz on the radio until a little bit later. Marion McPartland's show became syndicated, and I had access to that, and that just opened up a whole world of pianists to me. So, but I would go to the library and check out records, and my father used to take me to the record store once a month to buy a record. And you know, one of my first records was an Oscar Peterson plays Duke Ellington record, and I had no idea what I was just searching, you know.
Yeah, sure.
That's the one thing I really feel bad about young people today, is that they don't have the excitement of the search anymore.
Yep.
There's something to that like I couldn't wait to get up and go check out something at the library, and it would be like, maybe it was a Robert Johnson record, maybe, because I didn't know. I was kind of just picking and seeing what I found.
Exactly. Yeah.
That brought me a lot of joy as a kid. And then just learning every note on the record, just like trying to figure out what Herbie Hancock was doing, you know,
Yeah.
wearing it out. And there were records back then until CDs didn't come until I was older. So.
Sure.
We had 8-tracks and cassette tapes were big. When
I still had those. I remember I still transcribed on cassettes, you know, and then like there was a fast phrase and no way you could figure it out, you know, like what, you know, like
the act of trying, you know, makes you stronger. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, but that's why I started. And then when I was about 16, I started, according to some of the people I was around, playing different. I don't know what that meant. And they said, you can't play like that. So I had one teacher call me. He's like, you're like a salmon. You're going against everything. Like, because the salmon
cool.
swim upriver. I was like, but he didn't mean it in a good way. You know? So, and then I found, so I was kind of discouraged as a kid. I didn't know, you know, why does everyone hate what I'm doing? And then I found Jerry Allen, and I thought, wait a minute, she's doing that. And she was at the time influenced, of course, by Monk. We all are. I've never met anyone that hasn't been influenced by Monk.
Sure.
But I heard the Monk in her playing, and I heard her, you know, her approach, and her lines were angular and melodic at the same time, and just so different. So I just abandoned school and said, no, I'm gonna do that. And this woman she was a huge inspiration to me, Jerry. So, you know, and I thought she can do it, so can I. And I met her a few times, but
really?
I never had the opportunity to tell her how important, like, the Year of the Dragon, that record was to me.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that one. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was kind of a life-changing moment for me, where I said, you know, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want. I'm not going to listen to anybody. And that's been the case ever since.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's how to do it, right?
Yeah. But yeah, and then you know, I just started to, in order to like get out of my isolation, I started going to music camps, you know, around 16, 17. I went to Aspen Music Camp, where Paul Jeffries was the jazz director, and that was Hamiet Blewett came that summer.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah,
wow.
So I was like 17. It was not such a pleasant experience, but I grew a lot. You know, I was the only girl, so that's
heavy.
fun. And they treat you as the only girl. That generation did anyway. He did. But I learned how to work, and I learned how to work under pressure, and I learned how not to care what people think, and just play my best and be the best. So, and then the following year I went to, I want to say Banff. I went to Banff.
Oh, you did? Wow. Oh, that must have been amazing, right?
I was like 18, and Kenny Wheeler was there.
Oh man.
I became very good friends with him.
How was he? He's one of my heroes. You know, he's one of my top 3 heroes.
He was a lovely guy, and we had a really a nice friendship. We developed this nice friendship from camp, and we wrote to each other. And when he would come to New York, we'd have dinner. And
oh wow, really?
It was a lot. I still have letters from him. Lovely
oh man,
letters.
Wow.
He would send me scores and things. Like, he was lovely. So
did you ever play together?
No, we never did. You know, by the time I kind of got it together to play with him, he was already a little bit older, not traveling so much.
Yeah.
He would always complain because I never play in New York. No one brings me. And so I thought, well, one day I'll bring you when I get some money. And I never got money. But he was another generous soul, just like, just giving and lovely. And we both had the thing in common where we didn't care to talk too much. So that kind of made our friendship solid. You know, we could just like sit and people watch and not talk too much, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of people were there. Mulhall Richard Abrams was there that year when I was 18, and he was also just
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get to know him too well, but I talked to him a lot when he was there. And my favorite story is it was like 2 a.m. and there's a jam session, and I'm standing there and Mujo's standing there, and I'm talking to him about music. And at that point at 18, I didn't really understand who he was. I knew he was someone special, but I didn't understand the depth of how he changed music until I got older. And now his compositions are still a big source of inspiration for me. And so the kids are playing, we're kids, we're all kids, and somebody starts playing a James Brown tune, like just straight up funk, like funk beat, and he goes, James Brown, and he runs up to the stage on this like little shitty keyboard and plays the crap out of it. And I was just like, who is this man? And it was just amazing, just like, no pretension, no, I'm the master, you're the teacher vibe, which I never have appreciated, and I'll never do that to anyone that studies with me.
Oh, sure.
So he was there. Jim Hall was there that year, but a bunch of
people man.
That I was just starstruck at the time, and I studied piano with Don Thompson, who was a really wonderful teacher. I haven't talked to him in a long time. Anyway, that was a pivotal moment, because all of a sudden you meet all these, the people I met at Banff, I'm still friends with a lot of them, lifelong friendships. Then the following year I went to Sandpoint, Idaho, and at this point Tony and I were together in Arizona. Do you know about that camp in Sandpoint?
No, never.
Eddie Schuler run? Gunther Schuler ran this camp in Sandpoint, Idaho. It was short-lived. I think maybe, I don't know, no more than 5 years. It was a dream camp. So I was 19 or 20, maybe I was 20, probably 20.
So that's like early 90s, or?
It was 1994 or 93.
Yeah, okay.
And Eddie ran the jazz part of the camp, and Gunther ran the classical side.
Yeah.
We all could intermingle. But the faculty was Billy Hart, Joe Lovano, Kenny Werner. I can't remember.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, and Eddie played bass. And we were just playing these groups, and it was just like, it was nuts. It was so much fun. But I made a lot of connections there with people. I'm still friends with Joe and Judy. I was a kid when I first met them, and they've always been really generous and lovely to me. And same with Billy Hart. And I haven't talked to Kenny in a long time, but for a long time I was friends with him. I used to babysit for him sometimes. And then I remember telling them, I'm moving to New York next year. And they're like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. And then I did. So I was like 21 when I got to New York, I think. But so all those camps got me out of isolated Phoenix, where I grew up, and really expanded my mind, for me. So that's how things got started.
Was it hard for you when you came to New York? Like, I mean, to make the musical connections in the beginning?
I mean, no, I just called people. I didn't know. I just would call people and say, can you play? And sometimes they would say yes. So it was different. It was different then. There was more happening. There was more spaces for people that were unknown. Like I could go to the knitting factory and nobody knew who I was and say, can I have a gig? I have this band. And they'd be like, sure. And they would actually give you a little budget and everything. That was the way. So, and then that's how I developed the music. It's just playing these little places, And there were a lot of them that you could play at even if you weren't famous or had a name or whatever. So I don't know how people are going to do it now, because there's not so many places to play.
Yeah, it's really heavy.
Every generation figures out a way to play, because you have to, whether it be a house or whatever. And I know people that do house concerts right now.
Yeah, so many, like, and streaming and stuff. I saw it's quite big. Yeah, like Emmett Cohen, the piano, this piano player. I mean, his thing has become like an explosion. These streaming concerts, it's like he has, I don't know, 10,000s of followers and subscribers. It's like really a thing now, and it's basically a stream,
Yeah. Any way to get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not the same as, playing in front of an audience, like that you have people there, but it's still, just to get the music out. I think that's so important.
Well, just the practice of regular playing.
Yeah.
You have to. The only way to learn to play is through experience.
Yeah.
Not from a book and not from a class.
Exactly.
Doing.
Yeah. Like, how did how did Mirror Me happen?
Oh my goodness. That was my first record.
Yeah, I know. Like, how did you decide to do that one? I mean, it's still an amazing one. I mean, when I listen like that, the band is killing, of course. And but like, how did that moment happen for you to, okay, I'm gonna do this now?
I think I was I must have been like 23 or something. I don't know. I knew I wanted as musicians, and I called them up, and everyone was into it, and I wrote probably too much music. Probably too much music. It was I didn't know really what I was doing, and the recording's live to 2-track. There's no edits. Back this, and David Baker was the engineer, who's may he rest in peace. It was fantastic, and he really. I didn't have there was no one in the room producing. I didn't know what I was doing.
Sure.
We just went in and played the music, and that's when I realized how important it is to write for people. Know someone's playing, because they're going to. What I wrote on the page was not what I got.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and then I realized, oh, there's something to this. So in that space of allowing, writing compositions for the person, knowing who they are, knowing what they can do and what they cannot do. Those guys can do everything now.
Oh, sure.
Is part of just for people, because they're going to bring something else to it. And now I know what they're going to bring to it. Back then I didn't. It was like, really surprised. And so they would take these little compositions that I wrote and turn them into something else great, something great.
Yeah.
And they were simple compositions. And at that time, I think I was studying knee-deep and studying counterpoint privately with a teacher, with Paul Caputo, who a lot of people study with, actually. And so I was just in this like counterpoint mess in my head. So a lot of those tunes have, multiple contrapuntal lines happening at the same time. I still love that sound, so you'll hear it still. But I was young. I didn't know. It was nerve-wracking for me. It was
to be a band leader. I mean, like, to lead a band. Like,
to be the leader, yeah. To be the leader and then record live to 2-track and not really know what you're doing, and I just had to trust the people in the room with me.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic. So
yeah.
I still remember going into that session being very, very nervous.
Had it become easier through years for you? I mean, you learn.
Well, I knew what I was. I knew each time I got a little better at organizing. Compositions in a way where we didn't have to talk so much. Like I always tell students, if you have to stop and talk about what you want in a composition, something's wrong.
Wrong. Yeah.
Go back and write it into the music, so there's less talking and more playing.
Yeah.
So that hopefully improved.
Yeah. No, I think when I listened to the quintet then that came later, I think that's one of the most burning bands there was. I guess we're talking, like 2000. I mean, I love Ducret, obviously. It's like I'm such a huge fan of his, and
he's a freak of nature.
He is, yeah.
My favorite Ducret start. Well, there's a bunch. We were in Philadelphia playing, and Ducret only plays with an amp. There's no effects pedals, and maybe he has distortion, but very little.
Yeah.
And a woman came up to him and said, "Is that a special guitar? Like how? Is that a microtonal guitar?"
Exactly.
And he goes, "No, I'm special. The guitar is normal." Because he does everything with his hands and his ears.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really great that you don't need a bunch of bells and whistles, to make great music. I remember going on the road with him doing clinics and stuff, and just how honest he was about being honest in the music with yourself. Remember once he said something like, if you're lying to yourself musically, trying to be something you're not, and you're trying to deal in that business world, then you're doubly fucked because you're not getting to the music and no one's going to respect you.
Yeah, shit, yeah.
He was always very, very honest and upfront with people. So, and of course, playing with him was fantastic. You know, it's almost like he doesn't need the guitar to do that. You know, so.
Yeah. Yeah,
But yeah, that period in my life was really fun. There were a lot of gigs, there was a lot of touring, and just a blast playing with those, you know, just blowing the roof off of places was so much fun.
You toured Europe as well, right? With the quintet?
We had a few gigs up there, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Not long tours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I love Ducret, really. I remember I saw him like years ago with Big Satan, you know, with Byrne and Tom, and I was just like, I was scared of Ducret on the stage, you know. Like, like, man, what the, you know, Jesus, man, but the sounds and the energy, I have goosebumps. Like,
I call him the praying mantis of guitar players. He looks like a praying mantis when he plays.
Yeah, and I mean, still, I think the most underrated player ever. One of the most, you know, like all musicians know him.
Yeah, I'm always surprised when because I teach a lot now, and I tell guitar players, I say, who should I listen to? You know Marc Ducret? And they're like, no. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know,
exactly. Here.
Luckily, he documents himself well. So.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to ask you about the connection with Wadada. Also, how did that happen? You know, one of the greats, and I have the Hart's Reflection, which is incredible. Like, you know, and then you did the duo, and like, you know, when did you guys start playing?
I don't remember what year. It was. I remember he called me.
Oh wow.
Vijay, I think, gave him my number because Vijay started getting too busy, and it was a really great phone call. Being really happy about it. And he goes, "Are you available to play?" And I was like, "Yes." Yes, I am. And for about 2 or 3 years, I played in Golden and the large group, also the organic group, and then I stopped doing it. He changed piano player. He changes piano players all the time. I was happy to have those 3 years of him because he was really strong, and just the music was really inspiring, and he composes in a way that's very different, you know. So I learned a lot from watching him, because there's music in front of you, but he's also sculpting it in a specific way. So every night you play the same composition, it was completely different. And you've heard that before, but no, it was really different. Right? So the way he would create structure has been a big source of inspiration for me now, like how I deal with structure, you know. And he was amazing. Just that.
Well, what were the things that inspired you? I mean, like when talking about that, about structure and creating the sound.
Well, he had very specific ways of creating a sound, right? Like almost a layered effect among the different instruments. But the placement of where you would enter and stop might be different. And in the middle of something you're reading on the page, he might instruct you to do something on the stage that's different, and then tell you with a glance or a hand signal to move on to the next, you know what I mean? So it was kind of group where, not unlike Butch Morris, where you had to constantly look at him, but still see the music. So I had to memorize a lot of that music to be effective with it and give him the attention that he needed from a player. Yeah. The whole time I played with him, it was very pleasant and lovely. Like I had a great time playing with him. And Ferron and John, you know, those guys are his main guys. And I had a blast. You know, I had a blast, and I learned a lot. And a lot of it I didn't hit me till after, like I had some time to process, you know, what I had just done for 3 years with him. And he worked a lot in those 3 years. Like we went all over. It was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And then he changed piano players, and then I asked him to do the duo recording, and he was very gracious and lovely and did it with me, and just such a unique individual that has so much to offer that I wish more people knew about. I mean, he's definitely more people know about him now. You know, he spent many years teaching, you know, so when I started playing with him, he was kind of coming out of this like teaching life. And so for me, it was very exciting because he had a lot of fire and was, you know, knew what he wanted to do. And for me, it was super exciting just to be around to get to play with an elder and a master like that.
Yeah.
And he always was lovely to me. Like I had a blast.
It's incredible how all these guys, you know, Wadada and Butch Morris and Henry Threadgill and all these guys created really their Braxton, basically that generation, their own sounds and sound worlds and soundscapes, how to create music. I find that so fascinating that that generation somehow really created this, each of them their own worlds. It's so cool.
Right.
So,
well, it came out of a need to, well, I can't speak for them, but
yeah, but
I really believe that, you know, the lack of opportunity and several things that may have happened, you know, it has so much to say, you know, and we're just masters of music, and to come up with their own sounds like that, it was I'm not finding the right words. It's sort of a
necessity, yeah, almost,
to get it out there. I mean, I wish more people listened, but maybe it's changing. I mean, I teach a lot now, and I spend a lot of time teaching that music, like exposing students to that music. So.
That's good. Yeah, that's fantastic. I wanted to also touch a little bit about your solo piano playing. If you're still doing that, you know, I have a little house, and what are you exploring now as a solo pianist, and are you preparing something new also for solo piano?
Oh yeah, I'm always working on the solo thing. I think it's it used to always terrify me to play solo.
When did you start doing that? Like, when was the first time?
Oh, since I didn't know. I was since I was a kid, I would do it. I didn't record something till later in life, but I was, you know, I just played by myself. I was by myself for many years, so you play by yourself.
Yeah.
But now for me, I don't know. It's I play songs that I love, that have been a part of my life for a while, you know, and that's what I generally do when I sit down to play solo. I want to share a little part of my life with people, you know. Sometimes I compose things for myself, which is fun. I've also done several concerts where I don't plan anything. That's always terrifying.
That's yeah. Okay.
But the excitement of not knowing, you know, is super fun. The last one I did was in Ann Arbor at Edgefest. Played like a 40-minute solo set, and I didn't plan it. And so I always, like, right before, I'm like, oh, I should have planned something, you know. This could be a disaster. But I just went and played, and it was fine. But that you know, excitement, the terror of not knowing, really not knowing, you know, I think it's better than for me, from my point of view, to it's, you know, it's fun to play music you've worked on or, you know, thought about for a minute, but I think my next one will be of tunes that I've just been a part of my life for a long time.
Oh, beautiful.
That people might not know about, you know.
Like standards, or I mean, like just
some standards, some you know, tunes from my childhood. Some
wow, okay, beautiful.
Tunes that are on all my dad's records that still live with me every day. You know, tunes are like, you know, spouses. They're that close. You get close to them. They're part of your life.
Sure.
They guide you. You know,
Yeah.
I think, at least for me, I always have a tune in my head going from something, you know. So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, I saw you also, you played in the roulette with Billy Hart and Mike Formanek in a trio. And is this like a new thing you've been doing, or like is something
Yeah,
coming
it's
up with
fairly
this one?
new. There's a record coming out in September
Oh, really?
of that trio
Wow, okay.
on Sunnyside, the Sunnyside label. And like I told you before, I met Billy when I was like 18.
Yeah.
And I've known him for all these years. And I, I remember I called him a few years ago. He goes, "Why did it take you so long to call me?" I said, "I don't know." Stupid. So he's fantastic. He's a blast to play with. You know, it's just a blast. And he's on a lot of records. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, he's one of my heroes. So, but he's always been lovely and generous. And you know, you try to pick people that are like that to be around.
Sure.
You know, like, oh, he's that guy who plays so great, but he's a jerk. Find someone else who wants to be around a jerk. You know,
True. Yeah.
Billy's lovely. So,
Yeah.
guy, generous guy.
So it's gonna be a busy one, like till the remainder. I mean, do you have like, beside this new album, are you composing also some new stuff now? Like,
yeah, I'm always composing something. You know,
what's brewing there? I mean,
well, then I have a no net.
oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh man, a larger ensemble. Wow, that's
yeah.
new.
That's been going on for 5 years. During the pandemic, we did not play, but we had a lot of activity before the pandemic. That group in a pandemic is too hard, too much. So I couldn't really do a lot. But we had recorded. There was like a break in the pandemic, like where things kind of mellowed out for a second. People were getting vaccinated. So we recorded for 2 days. And that record's coming out next year, finally, after all this time. Yeah, so those are compositions that I wrote. I arranged a Duke Ellington tune that will be there. Duke Ellington still fascinates me. I'm always going, wow, what did I just hear from a recording from a long, long time ago? So that's coming out. So I'm always
who's in the band?
Oh, it's John Aber on bass.
Oh man.
Sam Oswabot. Do you know Sam? He's a drummer originally from the Bay Area that was in New York, and I think he just moved to Europe actually. But he's probably the youngest guy in the band. And I met him through my friend Philip Greenleaf because we played some out in the Bay Area several years ago. And then it's Chris Speed, Michael Atias.
Wow. Yeah.
Ben Goldberg on contralto saxophone. Contralto clarinet, sorry. Yeah. And then Thomas Hibbert.
Yeah.
And Kenny Warren. Do you know Kenny Warren?
Yeah, sure.
Kenny Warren and Omar Thomas, who plays guitar, he's from Mexico. And me. Am I leaving anybody out? I don't think so.
I think, wow, beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. So we had I'm very happy with the recording. So that's Chris Davis told me she's going to put it out. So look for that next year.
Okay, I will definitely. Yeah.
I'm always writing. I had this love affair with big band. So I'm always sort of sketching out big band.
Wow, fantastic.
I'm gonna, you know, Dave Ballou.
Yeah, I love talk about underrated people. Yeah, I love Dave. We did this interview like a couple of months
ago.
Really? Yeah, I love this. I love him.
So he's a dear friend. He asked me to come to his school this year, and he told me a few weeks ago that he's going to have a full big band. So I'm going to experiment on those kids with all the new big band stuff. So that'll be fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, there's always. I think that if you like to compose, it's something you should do every day. You know, so there's always something happening on the sketches there. So.
Yeah. Well, beautiful to hear a larger ensemble from you. I mean, you know, it's something you haven't.
It was a lot of fun.
Investigated. So.
Yeah, I want to do it more. It's just expensive to do.
Yeah, logistically, it's sure.
And everyone lives, Speed's in LA now, Ben's in LA, and now Sam's in Europe, and guitar players in Mexico, and so I don't know how many more. But for a minute, we were doing little tours and stuff on the East Coast. Yeah, it was crazy. Like me driving the van.
Seriously? Oh man.
Losing all my money.
Yeah, of course.
It was great, you know. We got a small grant to do one gig, but yeah, that's a labor of love for sure. You need a lot of energy to do that. And now that I'm going to be teaching full time now, so
Okay.
we'll see how much time I have to do that. It'll probably be the summers to do anything. So
That's so fantastic. Super. So much looking forward to these new records. So also the
Thank you.
trio with Billy and Formanek, you know, I love those guys. And
yeah, if you remind me, I'll send it to you. Just
oh,
remind me.
please. Yeah, please. I have a radio show here on national radio, so I can, you know, sometimes I can, they let me even to play more free stuff. So,
Well, on the record with Billy, there's a Mary Lou Williams tune, there's a Duke Ellington tune, and there's a
fantastic.
Cecil Taylor tune. Because in my mind, I grouped those pianists together. You know, so.
Yeah, I saw you played this music. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Also on that live gig. Yeah, beautiful, fantastic, cool. Angelica, thanks so much for sharing some of these thoughts.
That was my pleasure. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and hope to catch you in Europe, hopefully soon, next year, one day.
Yeah, I think the trio with Rainey and Malaby will be out there in next May or something, and then
fantastic.
we're supposed to do a new trio with Barry Guy and Ramon Lopez. Do you know those guys?
Oh, sure. Are you serious?
Yes,
oh.
I'm serious.
With the Europeans, man. Okay.
That's the goal. We're trying to do something. We've been trying for several years, but pandemics and people's schedules, you know. So
that's gonna be a different vibe.
Very different.
Like European, completely. Barry's amazing. Barry's like a genius, and Ramon also. I mean, like, you know.
I love playing with Ramon. It's really, he's something else. He's just all natural, just like it's like breathing with him. You know, it's super, super great. And I've been a big Barry fan for a long time.
Sure. Oh, fantastic. Okay, many things to look forward to. So beautiful. Yeah. Cool. Thanks so much. You too. Stay strong.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.